Okay, well, hello and welcome to our webinar about automating the entry of multiple encounters for the same patient visit within NextGen. My name is Tom Seco, and I am a business development manager for DAS Health. Before we get started on today's webinar, I want to take a moment to let you know that this webinar will be recorded, and we'll send out a copy of the slides and a recording of the webinar within the next couple weeks. Also, we recognize there's not a one-size-fits-all solution for the ideas that we express in today's webinar. So we invite you to follow up with us directly for more information as it pertains to your specific practice or to your specific health center and to your specific processes and issues. Finally, everyone's phone will remain muted throughout the entire webinar. So if you do experience audio issues, please use the chat box to let us know so that we can resolve them. So as you may know by now, about 7 months ago, I tentative merged with DAS Health. This occurred on November 1st of last year. DAS Health is a leading provider of health IT and management solutions and a trusted consultant to many physician groups, hospitals, and healthcare systems across North America. By combining our skills and expertise, we'll be able to provide even more support and value and solutions to your practice and to your health center. So what does this mean to you, our clients and prospects? It means our portfolio of what we can provide has become broader and deeper. It means we now have 200 plus employees in the organization. That means that we've worked with over 425 clients that use NextGen. However, some things remain the same. Our passion remains the same, and that is to work with our clients to improve patient care, work with our clients to enhance the patient experience, and work with our clients to maintain a financially healthy practice. Our mission remains the same as well, and that is to create additional value for your NextGen investment. We know when you purchased NextGen, it was a major purchase, and that investment probably has grown over the years with regards to upgrades and additional hardware and things like that. So we as an organization want to work with you to get as much value out of that investment as possible. And we'll continue to be specializing in NextGen, continuing our strong relationship with NextGen as well, and keeping our focus on you, our clients, your practices, and your health centers. So we're still here to help and serve you in any way that we can. So back to today's webinar and on officially entering in multiple encounters for a single patient visit. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer any questions that you may have. You can use the questions area of the webinar control panel for entering them in. You may type in your questions during the webinar as they come to you, or wait to enter them in at the end of the webinar. And as I mentioned earlier, for audio clarity purposes, everyone's phone will remain muted throughout the entire webinar. So if you do experience audio issues, please use the chat box to let us know so that we can resolve them. So as I mentioned, my name is Tom Seco, and I'm the Business Development Manager with DAS Health. And with me is Joe Scholes, and Joe's our Product Solutions Director. Joe will be taking you through the demonstration of the product today. So I'm going to give you a little background on how we came to develop this software and lay the foundation for what you're going to see in the demonstration that Joe's going to take you through. And as I mentioned, we'll answer any questions that you have at the end of the demonstration. So Multiple Encounter Billing Manager is a product that we created from the request of our clients. These practices had a need for creating several encounters for a single patient visit, and we're cumberously going through multiple screens to complete the work. So let's say, for example, a certain procedure, a certain visit that you have to typically enter in professional charges and anesthesiology charges and surgery center charges or facility charges. Or maybe you have to enter in charges for specialized diagnostic equipment or charges for durable medical equipment. In these instances, you may have to go to different screens multiple times to enter in each of the charges, or maybe go to different practices to get the work done. So with with the Billing Manager software, it enables you to create all of the encounters related to that particular procedure from a single screen. So this creates a much needed efficiency by significantly reducing the amount of time and effort that it takes to do the work. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and Joe's going to take you through a demonstration of the multiple encounter billing manager software, so you can see how, in detail, how the software works with its robust functionality and how it increases the efficiency for your staff.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to switch screens here, so you may get a bit of flicker as we move on to the demo machine. If for any reason while I'm talking you're not seeing what I'm talking about, maybe the demonstration froze on your end, please just chat us up in the chat window and we can pause for a moment or start and stop the screen sharing and see what happens. So the multi-encounter billing manager is written as a NextGen add-on. So it integrates and is launched from your NextGen practice management environment. Like all NextGen add-ons, the access to it is limited by NextGen group membership. So you can either use existing groups to link to it so they have access, or create a new group that specifically has access to the multi-encounter billing manager. I'm going to go ahead and launch it and take you through how this works and where the productivity savings are. The interface for this is really straightforward, and it's also configurable. I'm going to walk through a demonstration of creating a multiple encounter scenario, and then I'll go back and take you through how that's configured and how it can be changed for your specialty in practice. So normally when the patient checks in, there's still an encounter created, and that becomes your base encounter. All right, so when they're at the front desk and they're checking in and the insurance is getting verified and everything's being set up, we can use that encounter that gets created as the template to create all the other encounters. So again, you don't have to go through and recreate that and remap that. Normally, our clients are either working off a list with encounter numbers or they have the patient names. If they have the patient names, they can do an encounter search and bring that back to the encounter number field, or they can just go ahead and plug in the encounter number. Now, in this case, we're set up for ophthalmology group. And in this scenario, we have up to 4 different encounters that get created. We have one for the professional charges in the practice. We have specialty machines, the A-scan unit. We have the surgery center facility fees. And then we have the anesthesia charges that get billed to the anesthesia group in our database. Now, these can all be in different practices within the same database, or they can be in the same practice. So it all depends on how you're configured. We can accommodate either scenario. What we see here where the mouse is pointing is our base encounter that was created at check-in. And we can see the practice it's in, the encounter number for it, location, the rendering provider, and so on. Down below, we'll have one or more charges. This could be blank. We could wait to enter the charges until we use this screen, or you can already have them in there as they float over. Now, the other ones probably won't be in there because those encounters didn't exist yet. So we can come in here now at charge entry time and do things like go ahead and add our anesthesia or our ambulatory surgery center charges. So we can go add new encounter and pick this group. Now, these groupings change depending on the configuration. So if you're not in ophthalmology and not using an A-scan machine, but you have some other specialty equipment that you need to bill for on a separate encounter, you can go ahead and rename that group and configure it differently. Also, along the bottom, you'll see there's quick keys to be able to keep your hands on the keyboard and use the keyboard itself and the tab key to do the data entry without having to jump off and use the mouse all the time. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the ASC group, and it comes down here and starts populating my encounter line. All right, so we can see in this case, it's in the surgery center. It doesn't have an encounter number yet because it has not been saved in the NextGen. picked our default location, but we can go ahead and change that if we want, either through the drop-down or by typing to fill. We have the facility, patient type, the rendering. So we can come in here and look up one of our rendering providers. And pull that back. And then by default, the configuration will match the dates on these subsequently created encounters to the base encounter. And we'll see over here on the right that it's in insert mode. So when we save it, it's going to add it to the NextGen database. This one up here that was already in the NextGen database is in enroll mode, which means it's just going to keep track of the grouping of encounters in the multi-encounter billing manager. So now if we want to add a charge, I can right mouse or I can just do add charge, and I can enter in part of a service item and go ahead and take that back. Now, again, we're always using the base encounter as our template here. So we're going to pull over the same insurance that the base encounter has. If this is the patient's first time being seen in this other practice, we're going to convert the globe to a chart. All that functionality is going to happen for you automatically behind the scenes. Down here for the charge we just added, it's going to bring down diagnosis codes so that you have those in the charges. And if you need to add additional ones, you can go ahead and add it to that specific charge. As mentioned, the system is also smart enough to do anesthesia billing. So we can go ahead and add a new encounter for anesthesia. And I can use a sim here. That's an anesthesia sim, bring that back. And then I can come down here and plug in my anesthesia parameters like start time, stop time, and have it calculate the units, and then it'll bring that back up to the price here. In this case, there were no base units, there were 9 time units. It's smart enough to look at the insurance and see what kind of rounding is being used for the anesthesia units when it does this calculation up here. So now this is all just in memory here in the application. Nothing's been done in NextGen yet. So if you're just practicing on it, you can go ahead and do this. Nothing gets created in NextGen till you hit the save button. So we go ahead and hit save, and now those encounters and charges have been built in the various practices in NextGen. In fact, I can pull it all up and see off to the right here that the pending status is none because there's nothing to do. They're already in NextGen. And we can also see for our new ones that we have encounter numbers provided. So how does all this get configured and tuned for your specific needs? When we install this, we'll work with you to determine what types of encounters you're creating. It may just be a couple of them, it could be 5 of them, it could be 3 of them. You give us a heads up on that, and when we install, we'll do that configuration with you. So in this case, we set up 4 different groups: professional charges, ASCAN, ASC, and anesthesia. We designated one of them to be the base encounter. And depending on where your patient checks in, it might be the surgery center, it might be the clinic. Again, we're going to use that as the template. So when the front desk is checking them in and setting the insurance and updating all the information, we're going to then pull that when we create those other encounters. For those other encounter groups, you can set a minimum and maximum. Often these are going to be 1 and 1 if it's a required one, or else it could be 0 and 1, or you could allow several encounters to be created under each one. We can carry forward the rendering and referring physicians. In some cases, the surgeon may not be the physician in the clinic, so you can kind of crosswire those where maybe in the surgery center, the rendering becomes the referring, and then you pick a new surgeon for that. And then we have it set here to use the base date so that all the encounters have the same data service. And if you're using billing hold, we can go ahead and turn that on too so that they all match the hold for the billing. So again, right now we can set up to 7 of these groups. We've had no one hit 7 yet. We could always look at expanding that if you had a scenario that required more. But we're looking for those situations where you have a patient come in for some type of visit and you have to do multiple billings for it across encounters. And the magic of this is really that we're giving you all the pertinent data for those encounters on a single form here and saving you having to jump around NextGen and going through the various screens to get everything set up. So this really streamlines the process, adding to your productivity of getting those charges entered after the fact and then being able to save them quickly into NextGen. So this is the quick overview of how the multi-encounter billing manager works. I'm going to turn it back over to Tom to finish these slides, and then we'll take questions from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe, and thank you for taking us through that and showing us how efficiently you can enter in multiple encounters for a single patient visit. At this time, as far as next steps go, if you have any questions, need further clarifications on anything after today, you can give us a call or send us an email. Our contact information is up there on the screen. And if you'd like to have a more in-depth discussion about multiple encounter billing manager and how it would work within your organization or how it would work with your current processes, again, give us a call or send us an email and we can schedule some time to go through it with you. So with that, what we'll do now is take any questions that you have with regards to the software. So here's a question. Is this a specific item that has to be turned on within NextGen?
This is an additional software product that integrates into NextGen. So it's a separate piece of software that gets loaded into your environment where you run NextGen. So if that's on Citrix servers, we can load it up on your Citrix servers. If it's on PCs, it can be loaded on the PCs for the people that'll use it. And then once it's configured, we'll work with you to pick the NextGen groups who will have access to it, and then they'll be able to see it and launch it. So it is a separate product, but it integrates into NextGen.
There's another question. It appears this assumes the practice is manually entering in charges. Does it work when charges are entered via the tank?
This was created to be able to manually enter the charges. However, we have that question come up from time to time, and we're looking for a partner that wants to kind of work on that functionality with us. And we'd certainly invite you to, give us a call and we can talk about it in more detail and figure out what that workflow would look like for you.
Can you talk about how the installation and training process goes?
The installation and training process is really straightforward. In fact, for all of our interactive products, multi-encounter billing manager, refund manager, unapplied and deposit manager, the process is very similar. We'll have a kickoff call. We'll pull in the appropriate stakeholders from IT, from NextGen, other business units that may be affected by it. We'll dole out various tests that need to be done. We'll work with the IT team to get this loaded in your test environment. While that's going on, we'll provide training materials, which could be manuals and or videos to watch to kind of give you a baseline of how this works. And then once it's loaded and test, we'll do an online session with you and take you through the operation of the product just to make sure everything's configured as desired and that you have a good understanding of how it works. You're free to then test it for a period of time, and when you're ready to move it into production, give us a call, and again, we'll work with your IT staff to get it installed on the production side, and then we'll help you move the configuration over to production where you can start using it. This process can be done in several weeks or several months. It really depends on the other projects that are on your plate in the organization. Normally, we'll get you that kickoff email within a couple of weeks after contract signing. And depending on what kind of hoops you have to jump through to get it installed in your test environment. If you have the servers local, that's normally real quick. If you have to open a ticket with your hosting vendor, that can sometimes take a few days or a week. So we'll work with you on your schedule to get this installed as quickly as you need.
Here's another question. What about changing the payer on the second encounter? Are we able to change the payer when creating a second encounter?
The encounters right now are all keyed off the base encounter, so they use the same payer. However, you can certainly go into NextGen and modify it after this creates the encounters and charges for you.
And then one last question looks like, if multiple DXs
Diagnosis,
are
yeah.
diagnoses are on the office visit and you add another encounter, can you choose what diagnosis you want for the second encounter?
By default, they'll all come down, but you can go ahead and blank them out. So yes, you can. And you can even add additional ones.
Okay, good. That looks like all the questions right now. If nobody has any other questions, we go ahead and close out the webinar. But again, if you do have questions after today, again, you see our email addresses and phone numbers up here on the screen. Go ahead and send us an email, give us a call, and we'll answer any questions that you have, provide any information that you need. And again, if you'd like to have a more in-depth discussion, again, give us a call and we'll schedule some time to take you through that discussion as well. So again, thank you very much for joining us today, and have yourself a great rest of the day.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.